This week I learned, well, at least I'm not turning 50. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update. Today happens to be my 46th birthday, but I decided I'd rather spend it with you guys. So yes, 46 cycles around the sun. You just kind of look around and wonder, how the hell did this happen? But hey, here we are. All we can do is keep moving forward because that's all you can do. You can't really slow down time. Let's go ahead and get into what happened this week, beginning with What Am I Reading? I did finish Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi. It's a book has been recommended to me so much. Glad I was finally able to get it in now that I've started doing this one horror book per month. I'm actually liking that quite a bit. This, I feel like this met the hype. It was very, very good. I really did enjoy the setup for it. It was kind of an interesting hybrid of, say, Children of the Corn and maybe The Exorcist, or maybe even like a little bit of Lord of the Flies in there, obviously kind of similar. But, you know, you got the young kids that might be a little evil, whatever. Again, I'm not going to spoil that for you, but there is some things in there where you can see on the cover here, you got this kid with a knife. Yeah, that happens a lot. There's lots of stabby stuff going on in this book. I don't think it's going to be a book for everyone if you are not into the horror genre, because I'm going to say, obviously, what I just said, there's a lot of child violence, and it isn't all child-on-child violence, just put it that way. So it has some very messed up stuff in it. Very, very dark, very brutal, really. But it has a lot of hopeful moments in it that I think that kind of make it a really, really great read. If I have any criticism of it, I just feel like I do wish they spent more time, because I think it's like David and Peter are kind of like the only kids here that you really get to know a little bit. And, you know, so it's like when some of these kids start getting offed, I didn't feel like there was any really emotional connection there, because again, I feel like that's the problem when we get standalone horror. I said it is a great thing because, you know, it doesn't bog you down, whatever, but you will feel like there are a lot of characters that can just be there just to be lambs to slaughter because there isn't enough time in it. I mean, this is very, very short, guys. I read this in a few days, 330 pages. So it didn't really have a lot of time to develop a lot of those other side characters. You know, just a couple of the priest, and of course, you know, Peter, like I said, and David is the only other kid I feel like you get any kind of semblance of what his life was like before the major events in this book. So that would be like the only really gripe. Everything else that was wonderful. The writing style is very good. The tension was great. Those big moments were really, really freaky. It was a lot of what I always tell you guys, how you can't be scared after a certain age reading something, but you can feel very uncomfortable. This has very many moments of those feel like, oh, okay, well, this is, you know, train's coming, I can't stop it. You know, I'm just watching this train wreck in slow motion. You get that. You are kind of grabbing your armchair a little bit while you're reading because you know it's coming and you just can't stop it, and that makes it all the more uncomfortable. But thank you guys so much for recommending this to me. Thank you to the publisher who actually sent this one to me a while back. So sorry it took me so long to get to it. Philip Fracassi did respond to my Instagram post about this. He's glad I was reading it, and so I want to thank him for obviously noticing that and making sure. I don't know if he's the one who made sure I got this or not, but what I would say is thank you for making your story so good, because I will be picking up more Philip Fracassi books in the future, because I feel like he is, if it's anything like this, he is writing the kind of horror that I do want to read, and I was very, very satisfied with it. It did meet the hype, and right now, yeah, even though it was the first book I've read for the month, it's a definite candidate for my book of the month for August, and maybe my top 10 at the end of the year. I don't know. It was a very, very enjoyable read. So I started Black House. If you guys don't know, it's one of those Stephen King books that I have not read. Talked about that a little bit earlier this week, but I was kind of lukewarm on The Talisman. I didn't hate the book. I just don't understand why a lot of people have it like in their top third of Stephen King books. It was just one of those. It was just like, it was fine, and I had a character I really disliked in it, but to me it just kind of felt like Walmart Dark Tower. Well, that's being corrected in this because everything in this does very much point to the Dark Tower. Very unapologetically so. Lots of mentions of a certain king of a certain color, if you know what I'm talking about. Dark Tower fans will know what I'm talking about. And I like that it's dealing kind of with Jake, or Jack. I always want to call him Jake because of the Dark Tower. With Jack, obviously has some kind of ability, correct? More so, I think, than just being able to slip into the territories. But obviously, he's became a very successful police captain or a detective at this point in his life. and he just kind of wants to settle down. He's repressed all those memories, which is really cool because I said, I don't really remember a ton about what happened in the Talisman. And somebody told me it's actually really great because Jack doesn't remember anything, so you get to kind of remember along with him. That can actually make the experience better. So I'm about halfway through right now, and I'm liking where it's headed. It is very much a cat and mouse kind of detective story, almost like Come With Me that I talked about recently, but obviously you've got the Dark Tower and you've got a lot of the supernatural things kind of going in there. Very, very intrigued by the fisherman because we as the reader know who the fisherman is, and it feels like right now the police aren't even close to figuring this one out. So it's a very, very interesting tale, and I want to know more about it. I think they're leaning into the Breakers a little bit, which is from the Dark Tower, and that could be very interesting. So this is almost feeling like almost, I would dare say, you know, if you're wanting to be a completionist with Dark Tower stuff, yeah, it's taking everything that I thought should have been Dark Tower related in Talisman, and I think it's kind of retroactively making that part of the Dark Tower. That's why I always felt like the Territories was just, you know, a different part of a different path of the beam, a different parallel universe, something like that. So I think that has been confirmed here. They're using lots of Dark Tower speak. I think you'll get a lot of that in here, but yeah, I'm really encouraged with where it's going. And people told me that, you know, even if they thought I was kind of lukewarm on the Talisman, they thought I would like this a lot. So I'll talk about it a little bit more next week when I finished it. But I do like where it's headed right now, and I think that even though I do feel like sometimes Stephen King and in partnership with Peter Straub here, it does feel like, you know, anything we're saying is worth taking a long time to say, because there are times where I'm like, I got it, can we move along? But I say that the writing style of this is very unusual, where it almost seems like you're talking to a narrator who's talking to a crowd of people and being like, hey, and now we go to here, and now we're going to do this, and then we take us to this. It's just a really odd writing style before it slips into kind of the point of view of the characters that are taking place in the main story. So interesting setup the way it does it, kind of whimsical in that way, but I am enjoying it. And I'm kind of curious to see how much further it does lean into the Dark Tower. We actually see an appearance of the big bad in this from the Dark Tower, which would be very exciting, I do think. And I'm glad that nobody's ruined that for me. You know, as people have said, they thought I would like it better. Now I'm seeing why, because it is really, really leaning hard into the Dark Tower vibes, and I am here for it. So how about what am I going to read, guys? Obviously, I'm going to be trying to finish Black House this week. I said I was going to finish Black House before I started my next book. If you guys watched a video I did last week, I did actually pick this up. And the thing is everyone's wanted me to read this for the longest time. I mean, I bought this back in 2019 because of how many people were carrying on for me to read this series. With this, as I said, I wanted to make sure I take my time with it, so I wanted to get some shorter books out of the way. Not that you call Black House a shorter book, but I usually roll through a Stephen King book pretty quickly, and Boys in the Valley obviously wasn't that long. I'm not sure about the Mercia, guys. We'll get to that here in a minute. But with this, I said I want to make sure I read all the other stuff and then leave this for the rest of the month. That way I can focus just on it. There were so many things about the names and the way that things are written in this. It kind of intrigued me. So I was just kind of looking at some of the character names, some of the location names and stuff in the glossary. And it really, really was just like, wow, this is what? Wow, okay. Curiosity got the best of me. I read the first line of the prologue and I was like, wow, that is a banging first line. Next thing I know, I was about halfway through the prologue. So I read the prologue, and it was awesome, guys. The prologue was amazing. I mean, it completely grabbed me like right away. I was like, wow, this is brutal, dark, messed up, really just drops you into this world in the best way. Very much in a way where you're like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but the way they set up this like apocalyptic event is just like, wow, this is really, really awesome. I am really, really invested in this. Then I read chapter 1. I was like, excuse me? So it was one of those things where I never really meant to keep going. So I've read like the prologue in the first 2 chapters, and I want to make sure I continue to focus on Black House. My curiosity just gets the best of me with these things, and I'm thinking it's going to be one of those, because I even texted Philip about this. I was like, bro, please tell me after a while this is going to make sense, because right now it is dropping so much information on you up front. And so many people that I know and respect have said, hey, just get far enough. Like the people that tap out on this book, basically, it's if you can't handle like the first, half dozen chapters or so. That's what I've been told. And I can see it is a lot of information right now. I found myself referring to the glossary and the index a few times to make sure I'm keeping all these things, because it's dropping so many. You don't know if it's a name. You don't know if it's a location. You don't know if it's a school. You don't know if it's a magic spell, for God's sakes. You have no idea what they're talking about. And Baker clearly doesn't hold your hand on these things. He's very much saying, I'm going to talk to you as if you know what these things are. and over the course of time, you'll probably hopefully learn to understand them. I said that same thing about ℚ𝕤𝕤𝕣𝕠𝕜𝕤 with the Warrens, and I'm in book 8. I'm still not sure I understand Warrens, but again, I'm not trying not to make that comparison too much, but I can see that. I can see a lot of Tolkien in here. Though some of his the way that he uses some of his naming mechanisms gives me a lot of Silmarillion vibes in that regard. Not seeing too much Dune yet, which everybody talks about, except it's the fact that he's throwing a bunch of names at you that you don't understand what they mean. That's the only thing I can say at this point. But I'm really not that far into it, guys. Like 80 pages, I think. But it's a very interesting setup. I'll put it there. It grabbed me right away. That might be one of the best prologues I've ever read. It was really like, wow, like holy shit good. And so it's why when I got to chapter 1 and 2, it's like, okay, well, I just feel like I just learned how to say ℚ𝕤𝕤𝕤, and now you're dealing me with this new character whose name I can't pronounce, which I think is Acamian. Drusus Acamian. I think that's how I finally settled on saying it. So now that I've actually got that down, they'll probably flip me to another POV character, and I'm going to have to kind of settle into all that. But again, a learning curve with this. I expected that. It's just, you even if you set yourself up to expect that, you're still going to be just like overwhelmed at first, and I got to believe it's going to get there. But again, I'm going to finish Black House first. I might find myself reading a chapter of this once in a while, but I can tell you right now, guys, this is going to take me the whole month. I'm not flying through this book. There's no way, because I'm finding myself doing a reread the first time that I read it, because I will get to the end of a paragraph and I'll just go ahead and be like, wait, what? And I'll go back and read that paragraph again. So and on average, it's taken me like almost an hour to read each chapter so far, because I do kind of go back. I refer to the glossary on a few things. And everybody says this with ℚ𝕤𝕤𝕣𝕠, oh, just don't worry about it. It'll make sense in time. I'm not that type of reader. I can't just not worry about it. I want to make sure if the materials are there for me to research without actually spoiling myself, I want to make sure I use that. And this book does have a really good glossary that settled a few things out for me at first. Like, they're making references to all these things. And again, I don't know if these are these schools, or if this is a kingdom, if this is a land, if this is a country, what it is. So again, I'm going to take my time on it, but yeah, it's an interesting start, and people already are like, please don't quit. I'm not going to quit. I mean, come on. I'm saying I don't know if it's going to grab me like it has everyone else, but based off that prologue, yeah, that prologue was amazing. So we'll see how things develop. But yeah, I'll be reading that along slowly. As far as the Mercy of Gods, the earliest I would start that was when I finished Black House. And that is a priority, because like I said, my plan was to read all 3 of those. That way I could spend the rest of the month on The Darkness That Comes Before. It's just, again, like I said, the curiosity got the best of me. And again, that first line was like, wow, that's amazing. And from what I understand, Baker has a lot of lines quite like that. And I found myself highlighting a few in my Kindle already. But very encouraged, even if it is me being like, holy hell, what am I reading right now? So I will say that, but that's never a bad thing. It's just like, this is a lot of information to try to take in up front. But I'm enjoying it for the most part thus far. This week on the channel, guys, I get out a couple of videos. Question I've been getting asked a lot lately is, you've never talked about this book or this book by Stephen King. Have you read everything by Stephen King? No, I have not read everything by Stephen King. And I came up with 10 books that I had not read of his yet, which actually turned out to be 11. So shout out to my patron, Jason, who actually pointed that out, that Blockade Billy was available in the Bizarre Bad Dreams. So I guess it's technically still just 10, because I listed Blockade Billy, but not the Bizarre Bad Dreams. I did not read the Bizarre Bad Dreams, but apparently Blockade Billy is inside of that one too. So technically it's right, but again, hat tip to Jason for pointing that out. So yeah, there were some books of Stephen King's I haven't read, and it was never I'll never read these kind of thing. It was just that whole breakup period. So if you're new to the channel, you don't know that period of time, that story about that period of time where I did not read anything by Stephen King for like 7 years. And I kind of talk about that story again in there, as well as mention all those books and my plans to hopefully eventually read them. I did my monthly wrap up and my book of the month for July of 2024. It was a very, very close race for my book of the month this month, but it was the one that was, you say it was the preseason favorite before I started. It did end up being my book of the month. And it is, someone did point out, Brent, another one of my patrons actually pointed out, it seems like since you have been doing this new format where you're doing, one horror, one sci-fi, one miscellaneous, one fantasy, that you haven't, you've been kind of let down by a lot. I think it's more of just like, I haven't read a 5-star book in a while, I won't lie, but I don't think there's anything I just like hated. It's just, I've just had some books I've just been like, yeah, they're good. They're good. I haven't anything that's been like, wow. But yeah, again, I do feel like Boys in the Valley right now is pretty close to a wow. WoW book. And I think Darkness That Comes Before has got a shot, depending on how that goes. So I do like mixing up my genres, and I think that's been a lot of fun. It's helped me definitely prevent burnout. It's really there because I can always just kind of switch around if I need to. But yeah, I'm not one of those. I'm like, I've got to have a 5-star book soon, or else I'm just going to go into a slump. No, not at all. But over the course of a year and trying new things, the chance of you running into a 5-star book is rare. But I've got some on the horizon here pretty soon that I think are good contenders for that. Because I think the last Ken Follett book I read was a 5-star, and I think maybe the next Ken Follett book that I read is a 5-star. And I might have some plans to visit Ken Follett again here very, very soon. Got these. It's this video I didn't really mean to make. If you guys don't know, I am in a partnership with Broken Binding, and they do send me some books every once in a while for me to kind of show off, and I just do all my unboxings of those over on my Instagram page. I feel like that's a better outlet for unboxing videos than this channel is. But here's the thing: I always record them with my microphone, my audio, all that, instead of just my phone, just in case it's something that I'm really, really wowed by. And it was a complete and total surprise that they sent me The Great Leveler, which is the sequel or the standalone series of the First Law, the standalones. And I did not expect to get those because that was something that came out a while back. And really, that was how I discovered the Broken Binding, was when they first did that. And I was like, what is it? Oh, you got to pay the subscription? The shipping costs that much? Wow, okay. But yeah, so when I opened that, it was a genuine surprise. And like I said, I don't really talk in unboxing videos. I always just put some music in while I do the unwrapping to show everybody, because I feel like let the book do the talking. That's what Broken Binding books do. But with that one, I was just so overwhelmed and a genuine shock and surprise on my face. I figured, why not just show a video of that, showing that upgrade, because the First Law is a series that's very, very precious to me. And I want to show that, just show and actually go and grab the old books and show the new ones off my shelf, because I was just so excited about it. I almost knocked my camera over. I was speechless. And if you guys have been watching this channel for long, you know it's very hard to make me not be able to know what to say next. So just again, I wanted to thank Broken Binding for sending those to me. And I put that video out, like I said, just because I was just so genuinely excited about it. And I thought my reaction was really fun to watch back for myself. And others know how much that series means to me. And I do like to show off their stuff at a greater capacity sometimes. And, what's better than the First Law? And those editions are just beautiful. House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 7. My wife and I continue to talk about that each week over on Mike's Media Reviews. I've got a link to my other channel, guys, in the description if you guys want to hop over there and hear us talk about any things that aren't really book related. It's pretty much everything else over there. We plan on doing more videos than just, House of the Dragon. It's just, this past week we were traveling and all that, so it was hard to get everything back on, because we got back on Monday night, so you feel like you're a day behind everything already. So we didn't get our House of the Dragon episode out until Wednesday. We usually do those on Tuesdays, but this week for the finale, we'll be getting it out on Monday night. So keep an eye out for that. We'd love to have you over at Mike's Media Reviews if you'd like to hear about all those things on the Idiot Box and on the big screen, as well as maybe some video games, other things out there. Some next week plans, guys. Got a couple of things. I'm going to be doing a new Talking About Nothing, and my guest will be Talking Story, John Minton over at Talking Story. John and I have got along great since he started doing this. He's given me all kinds of tips on how to fix my lighting. And I still wouldn't say I'm actually there, but I do appreciate that. But John's just a great, great guy. We are in the ℙ𝕦𝕤𝕤𝕤 together. And I'm actually going to be a guest on his channel on Thursday, because we'll be talking about Of Darkness and Light by Ryan Cahill, Book 2 in the Bound and Broken. We'll be talking some spoilers about that with a panel, and that should be fun for me trying to remember everything that happened in Of Darkness and Light. We did the first one for Blood and Fire, like the day I was leaving on our vacation, and so I had to bounce out early. But it's one of those things where I'm trying not to say anything past the point, because I read those 3 books back to back to back, and I'm trying to remember at what point has this happened so I don't spoil anything for them. But it's just fun sitting back and listening to some of their theories. I'm just glad that they are reading it. But John will be my guest on Tuesday night live. If you guys want to join us and ask any questions, we would love to have you. And also subscribe to John if you get a chance, because he is running a great, great channel over there. Season finale, like I said, House of Dragon, we talked about that on Monday night this week, since I do have a live event on Tuesday. And I'm thinking about doing something Grimdark related, just seeing those First Law books and talking about them again made me think there's so much great Grimdark out there. And it always is that fine line of what's Grimdark and what's not. I think that's an argument that always comes up, but I think I've narrowed it down here. I'm going to talk about maybe some of the best grimdark series I've read and maybe some of the most recommended. I don't know. This is still an idea that's in flux, so we get a little closer to it. That'll probably come out later this week, probably Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday sometime. I'll get that actually solidified and put together. But I'm going to kind of be taking a look at my favorite grimdark series and maybe some of the ones that are on the horizon that I think I really want to talk about and read here very soon. A couple of TV and movie talk things before I go. We finished Cobra Kai season 6 part 1. We'll be actually talking about that more over on Mike's Media Reviews. I just know that people are going to ask me about it. We liked it very much. It's still the best way, I think. It should be the blueprint for everything going forward on how to handle legacy characters while passing the torch to the next generation. It does it just wonderfully over there. Deadpool and Wolverine is seeing huge success. It's very cool to see. I've had a lot of people be like, does this mean the MCU's back? I mean, necessarily, I don't think so. I'm probably the wrong one to ask because I've been out on the MCU since Endgame. I think with this, it's kind of hard to deny the success they're having. Like apparently it's gonna catch Joker for the highest grossing R-rated film of all time here probably pretty soon. But from what I understand, it is very much a nostalgia goodbye to the Fox universe, obviously, with X-Men and Deadpool over there. But then again, that news came out about Robert Downey Jr. and Dr. Doom or whatever, and everyone freaking flipped out excited for it. So maybe, hey, who knows? Maybe they are getting their mojo back. Good for them. I'll talk about the Robert Downey Jr. thing over there on Mike's Media Reviews, too. We are going to get back to our weekly wrap-ups over there very soon. And wife and I are on to the final season of The Sopranos, so that's very cool. The ℙ𝕦𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕤, that scene with Uncle Junior, very cool. Knowing that it was coming, and it was very shocking, obviously. But yeah, we are into the final season. Very, very good. I think the episode titled Mayhem might be one of my favorite Sopranos episodes ever, because I think I've seen dozens of times in movies and TV shows where you kind of handle that purgatory to crossing over, into the light kind of moment for a character that's dying. I don't think it's ever been done better than they did in that episode of The Sopranos. It's just so hauntingly beautiful, and I just blown away by it. It just will bring tears to your eyes because it's just so incredibly powerful and so well done. It's such a pivotal moment, I think, for the series, and it changes everything. It kind of sets up the trajectory of where the final season of The Sopranos is going to go. So doing this rewatch of The Sopranos has been a lot of fun. My wife is still enjoying it. She still is like me, where she thinks season 1 and 2 were like maybe the best television ever, and everything else is really good. But I'm liking it even more, some of these things, on a rewatch, I think, all these years later, because the last time I watched these guys were when they aired on TV. But yeah, Sopranos, it's definitely solidified itself. I mean, on this rewatch for me, without a doubt, no argument at all, top 5 television show of all time. And it's aged quite well. I mean, outside of they're not on their phones the whole time. They still have flip phones and stuff. It's aged incredibly well. I would say it's not a show for everybody, obviously, because I know there is a lot of things that are sensitive content. But you can think The Sopranos set the gold standard of what happened in TV going forward, where, hey, anti-heroes are really in. So it really did set the bar for that, and I don't think we would have gotten a show like a Breaking Bad maybe if we had never had The Sopranos. So it blazed that trail for a lot of these shows that we love today, and if you still haven't checked out The Sopranos, guys, do it. The complete series is on sale on Amazon all the time. I got the complete series on Blu-ray for $28 one day, and I was like, yeah, that's worth the upgrade for my DVD box sets, which were $70 a pop when they came out. So yeah, great show, no surprise there. But guys, that was our week. Love to know what you guys are up to, what you're watching, what you're reading, what you listen to, what you are playing. Drop in the comments, guys, and let me know, and I will talk to you there.